Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 49, This Venerable One Forbids You. After leaving Xianyuan sect, Wenren he began strolling openly in public. He wanted the righteous cultivators to know where exactly he was, to make it easier for them to set up a trap for him. He didn't have to wait long. While he sat in a restaurant at the foot of Xianyuan sect's mountain and drinking wine, he heard someone near him speak in a volume like they were afraid he wouldn't hear. I heard that the murderer of those 17 experts was actually the Xianyuan sect's Wenren he. He's now kidnapped Bailey Qingmiao of Shangqing sect and is headed for the Sea of Blood. Bailey Qingmiao? Is she powerful? Why would he kidnap her? Another person asked in the same tone. Don't you know? She reached body unity in less than a century. Wenren he kills cultivators who are body unity or above. Since her aptitudes are so good, why would he pass her up? The first person said emphatically. Who did you say kidnapped Bailey Qingmiao? Wenren he asked. Of course, the blood demon Wenren. The person accidentally turned his head and cried out in shock. Wenren he. His companion quickly shrank into a corner. Don't kill me. I'm only at core formation, I wouldn't even be a snack for you. There's no use consuming me. With a wave of his sleeve, Wenren he beat them both black and blue out of formality, then set off for the Sea of Blood. At this time, Bailey Qingmiao opened her eyes. She had been trapped at the back mountains of Shangqing sect for the past 2 months, and upon opening her eyes, she found herself tied up in a strange and terrifying place. In the face of danger, she had protected her disciple first and foremost, and now endured the pain in her dantian as she shook Suhui awake. Through gritted teeth, she said, Disciple Su, wake up. We have to get out of here. Suhui blearily opened his eyes. Looking around, he saw the dusky sky above and the dark crimson sea below him and exclaimed, What is this place? I'm not sure, Bailey Qingmiao said. But we have to climb up. They were strung up by a rope around their waists, dangling off the edge of a cliff with the sea below them. The environment was very strange. Several times, she tried to fly up the cliff but to no avail. Her spiritual energy wasn't being suppressed, she simply couldn't fly. There seems to be an inexhaustible suction force below them, sucking in the surrounding spiritual energy. To get to the top of the cliff, they would have to climb with both hands and feet. Bailey Qingmiao should be scared, but for some reason, her heart was calm. Zhongli Qian was probably steadying her emotions. It was going to be okay, Bailey Qingmiao told herself. She set her sights on a jutting rock at her top left, preparing to grab it and start climbing. As the master, she had to go first and find a safe path for her disciple. The moment her palm touched the stone, she felt a burning pain eating away at her flesh. She jerked her hand back, seeing that the fair skin of her palm had been blackened with blisters of blood continually forming and bursting within it. Master! Seeing that Bailey Qingmiao was injured, Suhui frantically took out a medicinal pill for her to swallow. Whoever had hung them here was rather strange. Their spiritual energy hadn't been sealed and their kinkan pouches hadn't been taken away. They had only been strung up. After taking the pill, Bailey Qingmiao felt a lot better. She looked up but she couldn't see anyone around. Where are we? We were just at Shangqing sect, so how come we're suddenly here? Bailey Qingmiao said, holding her head. Has something happened to Shangqing sect? Suhui really wanted to whack his master on the head and knock her tendency to see the best in everyone out of her brain. He said furiously, Sir Zhongli was staying at Shangqing sect as a guest. If something happened at the sect, do you think he would just sit back and let you be taken away? It's obvious that he's fine right now, so he either doesn't know what happened to you or can't do anything about it. With him there and the Shangqing sect's wards, do you think the sect could have been attacked? Then, what happened? Truthfully, Bailey Qingmiao had already arrived at the answer. She just didn't want to believe it. What could it have been? Before you got knocked out, who was the last person you saw? Suhui nearly yelled. It was her Shikshan. Bailey Qingmiao had long since remembered. Shikshan had come to see her, then she had lost consciousness and woken up in this place. It's obvious that the Shangqing sect has strung us up here for some purpose, Suhui said. Don't we look like bait on a fishhook right now? As a ghost cultivator, he had often used bait to lure in ordinary people. This scene that he had opened his eyes to was totally familiar. What does the sect want from me? Bailey Qingmiao asked, still in disbelief. What else? Suhui yelled. Remember what they wanted you to do before but you refused. That's obviously what they're after. How come his master was such an idiot? Bailey Qingmiao shook her head. It wasn't that she hadn't realized this either, she just hadn't wanted to believe it. The Shangqing sect wanted her to lure out Master Qingxiu and she had refused, thus being locked up in the mountains. Shikshan had begged her to reconsider once and she hadn't listened. The next time he came to her, he had knocked her unconscious. Using their own disciples to lure out demonic cultivators. Suhui said furiously. How can Shangqing sect still call themselves the righteous path? They're just a bunch of underhanded crooks. He had raised his voice, as well as used spiritual energy to make it travel further. He wanted to make sure that the people lying in wait at the top of the cliff heard him. At the cliff top, several cultivators had already set up a heavenly net in order to eradicate the blood demon. Hearing a junior like Suhui yell at them, some people's faces turned red but no one dared make a sound. It was an elder of the Nangguo clan, who had a grudge against Bailey Qingmiao and her companions, who stood up and walked over to the cliff's edge. What's the problem with sacrificing a few disciples in order to slay a demon? He asked. It's you, old fart. Suhui said. You Nangguas are still resentful because my martial ancestor exposed your evil deeds, so now you want to dispose of all of us who attended that banquet, huh? The Shangqing sect has sunk so low that they are even rubbing elbows with the Nangguo clan? Disgusting. I'm ashamed to be a disciple of Shangqing sect. He was a ghost cultivator, one who had often hung out in marketplaces to eat wandering spirits. If he wanted to, he could cuss like a hoodlum and there wasn't anything he wouldn't say. He was about to die anyway, so Suhui didn't hold anything back, cursing out the Shangqing sect and Nangguo clan with all he had. Bailey Qingmiao was stupefied at the coarseness of his language and the sheer variety of his insults. Her disciple had always been so obedient and even if he was occasionally a bit rebellious, he never meant any harm by it. Moreover, he had studied literature under Zhongli Qian all this while. She had never heard him cuss before, so she got quite a shock today. She said quietly, if Sir Zhongli heard you talk like this. Suhui stiffened. His language immediately became formal, though he continued his insults, simply without the swearing. His language was still as varied as before, words like cowards, scoundrels, and petty crooks coming out of his mouth. Bailey Qingmiao didn't get how he couldn't memorize poetry but could memorize so many ways of cussing at people. Old farts, your actions are lower than those of the demonic sects. Suhui yelled. The righteous cultivators pretended they couldn't hear him. The Nangguo elder couldn't beat him in trading insults and after pointing a trembling finger at Suhui and calling him a vulgar brat, he backed off. Suhui yelled until he was hoarse but no one responded. He said to Bailey Qingmiao, your sect's no good and your Shikshan is even worse. Stop liking him. Bailey Qingmiao said faintly, Shikshan is unable to disobey the sect's orders. Suhui was on the verge of disrespecting his master. When the Shangqing sect wanted you to deceive Qiu Kongxiu, you were willing to be confined rather than agree. How come when Shangqing sect wants to use you as bait, he Wenzhou is powerless to refuse? Bailey Qingmiao was speechless. Asterisk. Good one, disciple. Nothing will get through to the MC's idiot brain unless someone cusses her out first. Love interest number 5 is doing good. In the original version he was killed by He Wenzhou before his identity could be revealed and he was basically invisible. Now after the revision, we find out he has actually quite a mouth. One moment Bailey Qingmiao was in reflection in the mountains, the next she woke up here. I thought I missed a few thousand words. Now that it's all explained, turns out it's He Wenzhou being shameless, forcing MC to do something she doesn't want while acting like it's for her own good. In order to stay on top of developments at all times, Wenren he was reading the book on his hand while rushing to the blood hell. After Bailey Qingmiao woke up, abusive love affair had changed, though the god of destruction remained the same. He Wenzhou was probably still under the control of the blood demon. He put away the book and arrived at the sea of blood. Acting like he was unaware of the ambush, he charged forward and appeared before Bailey Qingmiao. Bailey Qingmiao was currently dejectedly accepting her disciples' insults when someone appeared before her. After a moment, she saw that it was Wenren he and exclaimed, "Senior Wenren, why are you here? This venerable one has told you that he owes you a debt," Wenren he said. He was also unable to fly above the sea of blood. Feeling the sea's relentless pull, he stuck a spear into the cliff face, standing on its shaft and holding Bailey Qingmiao. "Hold on tight, you two," he said. "I'll take you to the top." "Lord, there's an ambush at the top." Suhui had no time to say more. A golden net appeared above them. 9 experts appeared in the sky. Among them was the Shangqing sect master, who had not been awake for a long time at this point. Wenren he chuckled. Even the righteous sects will resort to such underhanded methods. But if you plan to kill this venerable one, shouldn't you send out a few more people? What good will 9 do? Ah, this venerable one remembers now. During the Great Sect War, I killed most of your experts, so now you can't even muster up 10 people. Ha 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 ha. He threw back his head in laughter. Rest assured, he told Bailey Qingmiao. This handful of people can't threaten this venerable one. Senior Wenren, all I did was help you find the snow flame and the shattered mountain meteorite, Bailey Qingmiao said, tears staining her cheeks as she looked at Wenren he. You don't have to face danger for me. This venerable one isn't here to save you, Wenren he replied coldly. I simply want you to realize something. Wenren he felt no fear in facing these 9 experts. He had a lot of magic weapons on him beside the 7-killing halberd, so he took out a pair of swords, using them to first cut Bailey Qingmiao and Suhui's rope, then sticking them in the cliff face, leaping up with them as footholds. The cliffs surrounding the blood hell were constantly subject to its chaos and demonic energy and were highly corrosive. Even Wenren he didn't dare to directly touch them. He could only create footholds like this in order to get to the top. Even first-rate magic items would dissolve into blood within a few minutes of contact with the cliff face. Bailey Qingmiao saw that the spear and twin swords had already dissolved. Thinking back to her own hand, she gulped and broke out in a cold sweat. Had her Shikshan known how dangerous this place was when he brought her here? Bailey Qingmiao wondered in bewilderment. Fortunately, Wenren he brought plenty of weapons on him. By sticking knives, spears and swords into the cliff face, they made it to the top near the net, in just a few hops. Just a heavenly net array, Wenren he said, glancing at the net. He raised the 7-killing halberd. With a single swing, the power of the stars slashed through the golden net. With Bailey Qingmiao in hand, he leapt up and nearly free of the net. The 9 experts' attacks were powerless to touch him and were even unable to slow down his progress. At that moment, He Wenzhou appeared. His eyes were cold. Seeing the way Wenren he protected Bailey Qingmiao, his eyes gleamed and he raised a sword, stabbing it toward Bailey Qingmiao's heart. Wenren he knew that this wasn't He Wenzhou but the blood demon elder. But it was fine. Seeing this, Bailey Qingmiao's feelings toward him should truly die. Wenren he turned to shield Bailey Qingmiao, taking the blade in his back. Seeing her Shikshan heartlessly attack her, Bailey Qingmiao was stunned. The blood demon elder's consciousness retreated, leaving He Wenzhou in charge of the body. He Wenzhou looked down at his hands and seemed to realize what he had just done. "Shimei, it wasn't me," he cried. "I didn't do it." The blade had been imbued with the blood demon's power and was able to damage the blood array that Wenren he had carved on his soul. A blood cultivator understood blood cultivation the best, so only the blood demon could know how to destroy Wenren he's power. The exit was right before his eyes, but Wenren he had been badly injured. Holding Bailey Qingmiao and Su Huai in one hand as he wielded his halberd to block the 9 experts' attacks with the other, he flung the 2 into the sky, shouting, "Catch them!" A figure in the sky snatched the 2 out of the air. Qiu Kongxiu had arrived just in time. Master Kingxiu, Bailey Qingmiao had sustained too many shocks today and sobbed as she clutched Qiu Kongxiu's robes. "Please, go save Senior Wenren. Please." Too late. Qiu Kongxiu stood in the sky, quietly watching the scene below. Inside the golden net, 9 different magical weapons had pierced through Wenren he's body. All the while, the sword stuck in his back continually destroyed his blood marks. Even if Wenren he wanted to dissolve everyone around him into blood and absorb their powers to heal himself, he couldn't do it. Feeling his blood qi being drained, Wenren he burst out in laughter. He knew the blood demon would have a way to kill a blood cultivator. Since his blood marks had been broken, the plan he had made with Zhongli Qian had not been in vain. The plan had 3 goals. The first was to have Bailey Qingmiao see He Wenzhou attacking her with her own eyes, and thus completely let go of him. The second was to take advantage of the blood demon and Sengenki's cooperation in order to expose the traitor and obtain the 2nd volume. At the same time, he could destroy the blood marks on his body to free himself from his bloodlust. The third was to force the blood demon into action. Until now, he had been suppressed by He Wenzhou and hadn't dared to consume cultivators to restore his power, so the righteous sects had no way of discovering him. Now that he had acted directly, the sects might be confused for a time, but they would figure it out eventually. Moreover, the blood demon could deflect the blame for the deaths of those 17 experts on Wenren he, but with Wenren he gone, could the blood demon restrain himself from consuming more people? He couldn't. After a blood cultivator started killing, they wouldn't be able to stop. In the book, the blood demon had waited until they reached the divine realm to take He Wenzhou's body and hadn't done anything before then. This time around, things were different. He wouldn't be able to hold out until they made it to the divine realm. Everything was going according to plan. The remaining question was whether he could use the chaos energy within the sea of blood to restore himself. With his body impaled by weapons and the 9 experts endlessly throwing talismans, Wenren he fell toward the sea of blood. When it came to absorbing primordial chaos energy, Wenren he had some confidence, due to something he'd realized from the 3rd volume. Given some time, he would be able to regain his strength. Everything was going perfectly, Wenren he thought. Then, he suddenly heard a desperate cry. "Venerable One!" Wenren he's eyes flew open. In the instant before he fell into the sea, he saw a masked man charging through the heavenly net array, plunging towards the sea of blood after him. Beneath the mask was Yin Hanjiang's burning red eyes. Wenren he suddenly remembered something he had once said: "If this venerable is gone, you can follow me." Yin Hanjiang was a single-minded person. If Wenren he allowed something, he would carry it out to fruition. "No." Wenren he shouted, as Yin Hanjiang drew closer to him. "This venerable one forbids you." With a thought from Wenren he, his defensive robe flew over and wrapped around Yin Hanjiang. At the moment he fell into the waters, Wenren he lifted his hand and thrust his palm at the robe with all of his strength, shoving Yin Hanjiang back up the cliff. Yin Hanjiang had been pushed back from the sea of blood. He could only watch as his venerable one, whose body was covered with wounds, fell into the most hellish place in this realm. Ah! A pained cry echoed across the sea of blood. If Polis fell, Alcade would go mad. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 50, Nowhere to be found. Wenren he hadn't wanted to hide his plan from Yin Hanjiang. He just wasn't sure whether it would succeed or not. Not everyone was capable of reinventing themselves. Wenren he may have had some idea of what awaited him in the Sea of Blood, but he was only half certain. The two books stated that Wenren he would die in the Sea of Blood. This time, he came to the place of his death on his own volition, which was the same as defying the heavens and taking his own life against the fate that was written out for him. If he was destined to die, then he wouldn't keep it from Yin Hanjiang. Whether Yin Hanjiang chose to die with him or live on afterwards, it would be up to him. Wenren he wouldn't force him to choose. On the other hand, if he survived, that would be the best outcome. But it would take some time for his survival to be determined, and Wenren he couldn't be certain on what Yin Hanjiang would do during this time. He feared that without knowing Wenren he's situation, Yin Hanjiang would enter the Sea of Blood. Wenren he had a chance of survival in the Sea of Blood, but Yin Hanjiang would certainly die. So, he thought of a way that would get the best out of either outcome, so he sent Yin Hanjiang to battle with Hall Master Yuan. Yin Hanjiang's strength was about equal to Hall Master Yuan's. Even if Hall Master Yuan had gotten some advantages from the second volume and gained an edge over Yin Hanjiang wouldn't lose with Xu Yanyan backing him up. Wenren he understood Xu Yanyan. She would certainly choose the side of the more attractive person. Yin Hanjiang should be injured after his battle with Hall Master Yuan and would be unable to recover in such a short time. Wenren he had already made a deal with Zhongli Qian in exchange for Bailey King Miao's safety. Zhongli Qian would be heading to Xianyuan sect to hold Yin Hanjiang back while he was injured, telling him of Wenren he's plan and convincing him to wait. Yin Hanjiang's injuries should have taken a few years to heal. After a few years, whether Wenren he survived or failed would have been determined. By that time, if Wenren he still hadn't returned, Zhongli Qian wouldn't prevent Yin Hanjiang from entering the Sea of Blood. Wenren he hadn't considered the possibility that Yin Hanjiang would far surpass Hall Master Yuan's strength and score a crushing victory, and then reach the Sea of Blood in practically the blink of an eye. Yin Hanjiang's light flash wasn't proficient, and typically it would take him a full day to reach the Sea of Blood hell by flying with his sword. Who would have imagined that he could cross the entire continent in less than 10 minutes? The last sound that Wenren he heard was Yin Hanjiang's cries of despair. As he fell into the Sea of Blood, he thought that this really was the worst possible outcome. It seemed that Wenren he's death and Yin Hanjiang's madness were predestined, impossible to change. Yin Hanjiang saw Wenren he fell into the Sea of Blood without even making a splash. It seemed as if his entire body had been swallowed whole and dissolved in an instant. At that instant, he could no longer able to control his own darker nature. He wished to follow, but his Venerable One had forbidden him. He clutched tight to the black and gold robe wrapped around him. His burning red eyes swept across the 9 experts surrounding him and He Wenzhao, who was currently fighting over Bailey Qingmiao with Chiu Kongxiu. He slowly opened his mouth, the taste of blood filling it. Righteous cultivators, die. As he spoke, a streak of silver cut through the air. The army-crushing spike pierced into the Nangguo sect elder's body. He had not even had a chance to react. These flesh injuries were easy to heal, though. The elder swallowed a pill, circulating his spiritual essence, and was about to force out the blade. Suddenly, the points of the triangular blade emitted 3 streaks of harsh light. The Nangguo sect elder's body was split into 3 parts and was killed instantly. His soul fled, but a huge drum appeared in the sky. Somehow, Yin Hanjiang was now kneeling on its surface. He smacked a palm down on the drum. Bong! The drum beat roused the demonic and immortal energy within it. The Nangguo sect elder's soul was shredded apart under the pressure of the sound, with its remnants being absorbed into the drum. That's an immortal artifact. A cultivator of the mortal realm can use an immortal artifact. Retreat. The Shangqing sect master was experienced and made a decision swiftly. A heavenly tribulation is imminent. With it obstructing him, we'll have a chance to escape. The Shang-Qing sect master had barely finished talking when a peal of heavenly thunder struck toward Yin Hanjiang. Using an immortal artifact in the mortal world violated the laws of the three realms, so heaven would now enact judgment on Yin Hanjiang. But Shimei is still in the hands of the demonic sect. He Wenzhou cried. There's no time. Let's go. The sect master grabbed He Wenzhou and flew towards to their sect base. Shang-Qing sect's wards were supported by an immortal artifact so they couldn't be broken down easily. The remaining 8 experts fled in 8 other directions. Yin Hanjiang had already memorized their faces. His first target was He Wenzhou of Shang-Qing sect. The heavenly tribulation gathered overhead, yet Yin Hanjiang made no attempt to avoid it. Using the burning sky drum, he blocked the first lightning strike head-on. With a wave of his hand, the army-crushing spike returned to his grasp. He rushed towards He Wenzhou and the sect master as he pursued them on their way back to Shang-Qing sect. How is he so fast? Doesn't he care about the heavenly lightning? The sect master exclaimed. When Yin Hanjiang was just on the verge of catching up to He Wenzhou, who had fallen a step behind when a second bolt of lightning, which was dozens of meters in width, struck down from the sky and blocked his way. Yin Hanjiang stood within the lightning, seeming to not feel pain. He raised his head to look at the ever-thickening clouds gathering above. If he didn't deal with the heavenly tribulation, he would never catch up to them. He raised both hands. An endless supply of natural spiritual energy gathered in his palms, slowly forming into 2 circulating collections of qi, in the shapes of 2 drumsticks. He let go of them, using hand signs to manipulate them as they beat the drum. Bong! 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 Amidst the fierce drumming, red and gold flames rose from the drum's surface. The fire gave off pure golden rays of light. It wasn't mortal fire but with the celestial flame of the immortal realm which had been hidden within the drum for hundreds of thousands of years. The flames transformed into a golden dragon, charging towards the heavens to meet the lightning, giving off blinding radiance. Waves of gold light rippled across the sky. The clouds dispersed upon a single strike from the dragon, and rain gradually began to fall. Then the dragon returned inside the drum. Yin Hanjiang felt like his internal organs were being shredded. He was using Mahayana stage power to forcibly activate the burning sky drum, and each move he made overtaxed his strength. It wasn't enough. He wiped blood from his chin and continued his pursuit in the direction of the Shang-Qing sect. The burning sky drum's light flash was exceptionally fast and soon caught up with the 2. Seeing Yin Hanjiang approach, the sect master grabbed He Wenzhou and dove behind the Shang-Qing sect array. The array closed before Yin Hanjiang could reach it, stopping him from going forward. Yin Hanjiang's reddened eyes glared at He Wenzhou and the sect master from the other side of the array. He knew that the true mastermind who had plotted against his Venerable One was the blood demon who was inside He Wenzhou's body. He pointed at He Wenzhou. Come out. He Wenzhou gripped his sword. Yin Hanjiang, Wenren, he was a blood demon. The presence of a demon threatens the entire world. This isn't a matter pertaining to only the righteous sects. His death helps you too, don't. Shut up. With a hand sign, Yin Hanjiang beat the drum with a force that shook everyone's souls. Pressure waves assaulted the Shang-Qing sect's wards. The array trembled and was on the brink of collapse. Dong. The deep sound of a bell resonated out. It was the Shang-Qing sect's immortal artifact, the Moon Pool Bell. Seeing the desperate situation, Elder Qing had activated the bell to counter the burning sky drum. They were both top-grade immortal artifacts, and though the burning sky drum actually outmatched the Moon Pool Bell, Yin Hanjiang no longer had the strength to use it. The 10th drum beat was cancelled out by the bell's ring. Yin Hanjiang was already at his limits and could no longer continue. He glared at He Wenzhou through the ghost mask as he clutched Wenrenhe's robe to his chest. He had plenty of enemies and plenty of time. Holding the army-crushing spike, he pointed at the sect master and He Wenzhou. I want the lives of these two. I'm unable to stop you from hiding behind your wards today, but I don't believe that you can hide in there for the rest of your lives. This Yin Hanjiang, swear to refine your bodies into an everlasting lamp to serve as an ever-burning lamp for my Venerable One. He thrust his blade viciously at the barrier, though the moon pool bell blocked it. Retrieving the burning sky drum, Yin Hanjiang departed in a streak of light. Upon seeing him disappear, the Shangqing sect master finally let out a breath. With a bitter look on his face, he said, "We've just eliminated Wenren-he and now this Yin Hanjiang appears. His mind is in disarray and he is already showing signs of deviation." After relaxing for a moment, he suddenly remembered something. "We must go check on King Yushidi." He took He Wenzhou and some disciples who could still move and ran towards the moon pool bell. Elder Qingyu was half kneeling before the bell with his hair turned white and all his spiritual essence expended. He lifted his head, his formerly youthful face now filled with wrinkles. "It seems heaven was on our side," he murmured. "If he had struck one more time, I would have had no power to activate the moon pool bell again." Shidi. The sect master supported Elder Qingyu. Seeing his haggard face, he knew that Elder Qingyu's foundation had been damaged and he would never be able to regain his former strength. Just who was this Yin Hanjiang? How was he so strong? They had not seen him display such power during the Great Sect War. ******. Yin Hanjiang had planned to fly to the Sea of Blood, but halfway in the journey, his strength failed him and he fell from the air. He landed heavily in a snowdrift, not knowing where he was. He picked himself up from the snowdrift and took off his mask. After such fierce fighting, the ordinary mask was already covered with cracks. He glanced at it and then smiled bitterly. His Venerable One was gone. There was no need for him to wear a mask anymore. He had used the mask to hide his expression when he could not suppress his feelings. The person he wanted to hide them from was no longer here, so there was no use for it anymore. After putting the mask back into his kinkan pouch, Yin Hanjiang sat in the snow, staring at his surroundings in a daze. Finally, he recognized it. So it's the 1,000-mile ice plains. 30 years later, after Wenren-he had wrecked the place twice, it no longer extended for 1,000 li around. Only the area of 100 li would be covered with snow in winter, which would melt in the spring as flowers bloomed. Every direction was a boundless expanse of white. Yin Hanjiang seemed to see a figure in the distance, beckoning him. He approached and found that it was his Venerable One. His Venerable One exposed a wrist, slashing it open and extending it to Yin Hanjiang. His cold voice held an undercurrent of warmth. "Your body is chilled and can't withstand the ice plains. If you drink my blood, it can sustain you for a few days." Yin Hanjiang blinked at him, then bowed his head obediently. He dipped his mouth towards the cut, but he only tasted the bitter wind. Wenren-he, who had been looking at him warmly, had vanished. It was just an illusion. Yin Hanjiang covered his face. He heard another voice near him. "This is the snow flame. If you absorb it, it will dispel the yin energy within your body." He dropped his hand and looked around. It seemed as if each snowflake had transformed into Wenren-he, surrounding him on all sides. He reached out a hand, but they dissipated back into snowflakes, being blown away by the wind. All false. They were all illusions caused by his inner demons. Only this one was real. Yin Hanjiang hugged Wenren-he's robe to his chest, curling up in the snow, closing his eyes and covering his ears, not wanting to see or hear anything. He didn't dare open his eyes, lest he see his Venerable One everywhere. He only shrank into the snow, shivering in the cold. He gradually took in spiritual energy in order to heal his wounds. He didn't know how long he slept in the snow. Eventually, the snow melted, spring came, and the flowers bloomed. Yin Hanjiang awoke from the ice that had been covering him. After walking for a bit, he came upon a blossoming apricot tree. Wenren-he seemed to be sitting in the tree, extending a hand to him. Yin Hanjiang also reached out, trying to snatch his hand but didn't touch him. He only grabbed an apricot flower. Fake. Yin Hanjiang clenched his fist. The fragile flower was crushed within his palm. He opened his hand and let the fragments of that flower be blown away in the wind. In the scattering petals, he seemed to see Wenrenhe's figure, leaving him. Also fake, Yin Hanjiang told himself to not look or listen. It all was the delusions of his inner demons and shouldn't be believed. He had unfinished business and he shouldn't succumb to his inner demons. Step by step, Yin Hanjiang walked out of the 1,000-mile ice plains being warmed by spring winds. It no longer resembled the place where he and his Venerable One had come before, and his Venerable One was no longer here. In heaven or the underworld, he was nowhere to be found. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 51, Insecure Hearts. Yin Hanjiang had been buried in the snow for over 3 months but did not manage to recover much spiritual qi. He had drained it using the burning sky drum to fend off the heavenly tribulation. If he didn't care about the mortals living near the ice plains and absorbed all the spiritual energy around him, he could recover most of the way, but he refused to. He flew slowly, reaching the Sea of Blood after half a month. He had found out several weeks ago during the battle here that he could absorb the primordial chaos energy. This was the best place for him to recover his strength. Slowly, he climbed to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The expanse of crimson made him dizzy as he sat weakly atop the cliff. In his eyes, there were countless Wenrenhe who were jumping downward, beckoning warmly for Yin Hanjiang to follow them. Without sect leader Yin, this Venerable One is quite lonely, one said, sitting by his side. Didn't you swear to follow this Venerable One throughout every life? Yin Hanjiang gazed at Wenrenhe's attentive expression and shook his head. Venerable One, I want to follow you but I can't. You forbade me. This Venerable One is allowing you now, Wenrenhe said. This subordinate has unfinished business, Yin Hanjiang said quietly. He took out the ghost mask which was now riddled with cracks. Gazing down at it, he seemed to be looking at his old self. The Wenrenhe at his side looked on with him. Venerable One, do you still remember this mask? Yin Hanjiang asked. Naturally, he didn't answer. After all, he was only a creation of Yin Hanjiang's imagination. You thought this subordinate was loyal, right? I may not have been a gentleman like Zhongli Qian, but at least I was open and honest, right? Yin Hanjiang ran a hand over the cracks in the mask, his voice restrained. But it wasn't true. His family had been slaughtered when he was 5 years old. He had lain in a pile of corpses for days before he had been picked up by Wenrenhe, then he was abandoned for a decade. How could he be open and honest? How could he not hold resentment? Before he turned 18, Yin Hanjiang had lived a harsh life. He knew he had been saved by a powerful person whom he had very little contact with. That person wanted him to become a sword cultivator, and he understood that he had to win that person's favor if he wanted to survive, so he dedicated himself to practicing the sword. But Yin Hanjiang had never said that he liked the sword. Before he turned 18, he wanted to survive and become stronger, so he did all he could to win that man's favor. When he turned 18, he returned to his village. There, he saw the man who had saved him and found out his name was Wenrenhe. While he watched quietly at the sidelines as Wenrenhe led his troops to protect the village, longing, admiration, and worship filled his heart. Yin Hanjiang wished to become someone like Wenrenhe but knew that he could not. After 18 years, his temperament was already formed. He would always be a dark and twisted person. Wenrenhe didn't know that the enemy troops who had fled from his battles had all been hunted down by Yin Hanjiang. One by one, Yin Hanjiang stabbed them to death with triangular blades. He had already found the corpse pile where his family members were now all bones and could no longer be identified. He had buried them and set up monuments. Then he dragged the enemy tribesmen's corpses before the graves, setting them alight one by one to illuminate the graveyard. Yin Hanjiang's face was shadowy in the firelight. The warmth of the flames didn't reach him. After Wenren he successfully drove out the enemy tribe, he drank with his surviving soldiers while Yin Hanjiang hid in a corner, watching him. After everyone around Wenren he had passed out and Wenren he who had his spiritual energy sealed, was also drunk, he looked over to the only person still upright and dragged him over to drink with. Yin Hanjiang's face turned red after taking only a sip from Wenren he's bowl. He fled in embarrassment, taking a mask from Wenren he's belt in order to cover his face. It was a custom in the little border town. After the battles, they wore the ghost masks to pray in order to prevent the evil spirits of the enemy soldiers from harming them. During the festivities, Wenren he had also worn the same mask and prayed. Yin Hanjiang felt at ease after putting on the mask. With it, no one could see his expression and he no longer had to act properly. He hid the mask, and whenever he could no longer keep up the act, he would secretly put it on for a moment. After pretending for so long, he had fooled himself into thinking that he really was someone who lived up to his Venerable One's expectations. Only the presence of this mask reminded Yin Hanjiang that it was a lie. There was no need to pretend now. The person he wanted to fool was gone. Yin Hanjiang released his hand. The crack-riddled mask fell into the sea of blood, dissolving into nothingness. He paid no more attention to the illusions by his side. He called out the burning sky drum, set up a protective array, and sat cross-legged on its surface to meditate. The people of Xianyuan sect had always thought that the burning sky drum was a first-grade immortal artifact. It wasn't, as it was actually a divine artifact. Yin Hanjiang hadn't known it himself. Despite having cultivated on it for 3 months, he had never realized it. It was when he had forcibly used it during the Great Sect War and had its vicious energy invade his body that he had gained a connection to it. During their 30 years of seclusion, Xu Yanyan had gotten to meditate on the drum for a year. After a year had passed, Wenren he was still in seclusion, so Yin Hanjiang had gone there to wake her up and shoo her away. After she left, Yin Hanjiang leapt into the ravine. He stood on the drum, hearing the sounds of war drums by his ears. He wanted to gain power quicker, hoping to sharpen his sword will by cultivating on the drum and help his Venerable One. However, at that time, he was unable to make any progress. He didn't understand why. He was able to cultivate while wielding the demonic sword, but now he could not cultivate with the army-crushing sword. He stared at the blade. There seemed to be a voice deep inside him that was telling him over and over that the weapon wasn't right. Yin Hanjiang knew that swords didn't sweet to him. Swords were too slow at killing people. When a triangular spike stabbed someone, the wound was difficult to close and the bleeding would be difficult to stop, so it was his favored weapon. He put on the ghost mask. After hiding his emotions, he felt his heart become unfettered and he easily harmonized with the burning sky drum. His cultivation progressed quickly this time. After 10 years, his sword had become the army-crushing spike, a weapon that truly suited him, and Yin Hanjiang had risen to the peak of Mahayana. But once he left the drum and took off the mask, his realm dropped back to void boundary and his weapon returned to being a sword. Wenren he had once said that if one's mental state didn't match their realm, it was like giving a 3-year-old child a magic sword. They could have the greatest treasure in the world but would be unable to use its power. Yin Hanjiang knew that after taking off the mask and suppressing his true self, his mental state was insufficient for wielding the Mahayana level of power. In order to grow stronger, he had to let go of his pretenses. He didn't dare. He couldn't imagine his Venerable One's expression upon seeing that he held a triangular spike instead of a sword. So, Yin Hanjiang decided it was best to remain this way for now. When Hall Master Yuan had beaten him and was about to take the burning sky drum, Yin Hanjiang had no choice but to put on the mask and unleash his true power. The mask wasn't special at all. It was only a shield to allow Yin Hanjiang to show his true nature. Now that it had no use, it might as well accompany his Venerable One. After Yin Hanjiang finished what must be done, he would return to the Sea of Blood. After 10 months, Yin Hanjiang opened his eyes atop the burning sky drum. Only a god could absorb chaos energy. Using the divine weapon's power, he had already recovered and even had another breakthrough. Yin Hanjiang didn't know how strong he was at that moment. He vaguely felt that he had already passed the point of his heavenly tribulation. The heavenly lighting he faced while pursuing and trying to kill He Wenzhou the year before were not only because he defied the laws of heaven but also because he had advanced in his cultivation stage. He seemed to have immortal qi, but not quite. It wasn't important though. He just needed enough strength. Yin Hanjiang put away the burning sky drum and Wenren He's robe. After a long gaze at the Sea of Blood, he returned to Xianyuan sect in a light flash. Xianyuan sect had been a bit chaotic this past year. First sect leader Yin and left protector Shu joined forces to kill Hall Master Yuan, then the sect master had been surrounded and killed at the Sea of Blood. Sect leader Yin, who had previously been as unassuming as a shadow, had snapped and scared the Shangqing sect master and his chief disciple into hiding in their sect for over a year. The battle had shaken the entire cultivation world. After gaining renown in battle, sect leader Yin had vanished. The Xianyuan sect was left without a leader. Hall Master Yuan's subordinates fought and killed each other over his position, and the rest of the Hall Masters began to eye Yin Hanjiang's position after a year had gone by with no news. The Hall Masters and Xu Kongxiu would fight with each other several times in a month. Right now, they were nursing their injuries and saving up strength for the next battle. Xu Yanyan, who had once overcome all 4 Hall Masters, was comfortable in her position. She never participated in the fighting as she lazed about on her new large bed all day and occasionally went over to mess with Bailey Qingmiao and Zhongli Jian. Bailey Qingmiao had been injured after her bonded weapon was destroyed at the Sea of Blood and had been recovering at Xianyuan sect all this time. Zhongli Jian had made his agreement with Wenren He, that he had to tell something to Yin Hanjiang, so he couldn't leave before he could talk with Yin Hanjiang. The two, along with Su Huai, had been guests in Xu Kongxiu's cultivation grounds. Since Xu Kongxiu was powerful and didn't have many subordinates, their stay was quite peaceful. The right protector's cultivation grounds are more deserted than a haunted house. Xu Yanyan had come to visit the injured Bailey Qingmiao again, striking up a conversation when she saw that Zhongli Jian was helping Su Huai study. "Where's right protector Qiu? She has an appointment to fight the 3 Hall Masters in the main hall today." Zhongli Jian signaled for Su Huai to stop and rose to greet Xu Yanyan. "Long time no see, left protector Xu." "It hasn't been long, just 3 days." Xu Yanyan yawned languidly. "She sure can fight. She's just managed to get her flesh back and already turned into a skeleton again, yet she's still fighting." Zhongli Jian poured a cup of tea for Xu Yanyan as he said warmly, "Right protector Qiu is an honest woman with a straightforward nature, but she tends to overlook details. I must thank left protector Xu for keeping an eye on her over this past year." "It was nothing," Xu Yanyan said with a wave of her hand. "Is there a reason for your visit today?" Zhongli Jian asked. "I can never fool you." Xu Yanyan gazed at Zhongli Jian's face. "You're smart, young master Zhongli. What would you say I want?" Zhongli Jian picked up his own cup of tea, saying in an unhurried pace, "The people of Xianyuan sect are inconsistent and left protector Xu wishes to join in the fray, so is hoping for my support." "It sure is convenient to talk to someone intelligent," Xu Yanyan said, gazing at Zhongli Jian with her chin in her hand. "What does young master Zhongli think? I know your relationship with left protector Qiu is better, but she doesn't have a brain, and the Xianyuan sect would collapse after 3 days under her leadership. My thoughts? I hope protector Xu will wait for a few more days," Zhongli Jian said. He had barely finished speaking when the wards around Xianyuan sect broke. A terrifying force charged into the sect. Xu Yanyan stood and said seriously, "Was this what you were waiting for, young master Zhongli?" "Right," Zhongli Jian put down his teacup and said to Su Huai, Go prepare medicines and a spirit gathering array. Your martial elder will be getting a lot more injured today. So why? End chapter.